FBI is searching the apartment of slain suspect Tamerlan Tsarnaev again today. After an earlier search, a source told CNN that investigators found explosive residue in that apartment where Tamerlan lived with his wife and young daughter. Let's bring in our legal panel. Paul Callan is a CNN legal analyst, and Rachel Self is a criminal defense attorney. All right, let's talk about this new search. The surviving suspect, Jahar Tsarnaev, already told investigators that he and his brother built the bombing devices in Tamerlan's home. Won't this be a pretty sizable challenge for Jahar's defense team if he pleads not guilty with that admission already? Rachel, you first.
It's actually not going to be any more of a challenge having already found these things, because at arraignment, everybody pleads not guilty, because under our system of law, you're not guilty until you're proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So this doesn't have anything to do with his plea initially at arraignment.
And so, Paul, what do you see? Do you see a potential plea bargain somewhere down the road here for him?
Oh, yes, I do. As a matter of fact, his only hope for avoiding death penalty, I think, is probably trying to negotiate some kind of plea that will prevent the government from having to try the case. And I think the way the case looks to be shaping up against him, it's a very strong case right now. That he's linked by photographs, he's linked by motive, he's linked by forensic evidence. Prosecutors have a great case against him.
And some admissions.
They have lots of admissions, some of them usable, maybe some not, because they were made before the Miranda warnings were issued. But most certainly, this is going to be an easy case to prove in court for prosecutors.
Now let's talk about Tamerlan Tsarnaev's widow, Catherine Russell, who apparently reportedly worked something like 80 hours a week, and that she really didn't spend a whole lot of time in that apartment, and that's why perhaps she may not have been able to see any kind of building of bombs or explosive material, etc. So, Rachel, you know, how closely are they going to be looking at this evidence, searching for any kind of DNA, her DNA on any of the evidence thus far collected? If they were to find some, potentially what kind of charges might she be facing? What would her legal road be?
Absolutely. She could definitely be facing conspiracy charges. She could be facing accessory after the fact charges, and she could be facing main charges here. But DNA isn't an exact science, so it could have just been a secondary transfer. You know, we slough off 30,000 skin cells every hour. So the fact that her DNA might be on the bomb that was made in an apartment she was living in is not necessarily going to connect her hands down to the crime. But what they're going to be doing is exerting as much pressure as they can on her, because they want to make sure that this thing ended with these boys and that it didn't continue on, and that there aren't greater plots afoot here. And she's going to be an excellent source of information for that if she actually knows anything.
And you know, so Paul, again, there has been no evidence linking her. Just by association, she living in the apartment, and so much being said about bombs being constructed, put together in that apartment. There is some potential, is there not, that she would know something?
Well, I'll tell you something. Putting on my old prosecutor hat, there's something about her setup that doesn't ring right with me. You know, her father and grandfather went to Phillips Exeter Academy, Yale-educated, sort of upper class in terms of their background in Rhode Island, and suddenly she's marrying a boxer from Russia and adopting the Muslim faith, and you know, he's a radical jihadist, we obviously understand. And to believe that she wouldn't know that something was going on with this guy in the basement of her house, she probably rejected her own family in order to do this. I think she was buying into his game, she was buying into his philosophy and his ideology.
I don't know.
That's what I think. She knows something, and I think they're going to come after her when they make a case. So there, Rachel Self, you know?
Well, Paul Callan, I'll tell you, smart women make mistakes for love all the time, and they can be blinded by love all the time. No matter how smart they are, it happens, and things can be going on under your own roof that you really don't know about. So I think that the defense will have some strong arguments here, and I don't think that it's a slam dunk against her at all. I think the strongest thing for them to be utilizing her for at this point is information, and pressuring her for more information.
Okay, so
well, the biggest problem,
yeah, so far no evidence again.
Getting information from her. Yeah.
Strictly a lot of presumption being made as it pertains to Miss Russell. All right, so Rachel, Paul, we're not done with you guys. We've got another case we want to talk about. This involving a referee in Utah who was allegedly punched by a teen soccer player of a soccer referee has shocked a community in Utah. Police say Ricardo Portillo was punched in the head by a 17-year-old player last week after Portillo gave him a yellow card. Portillo ended up in a coma. He passed away last night, and the teen is in juvenile detention. Let's bring in, again, the legal guests that we just heard from momentarily. CNN legal analyst Paul Callan and defense attorney Rachel Self back with us. So police had charged this 17-year-old with aggravated assault. Now it is said that the charges could be upgraded. Paul, are we talking about it all predicated on whether he is charged as a juvenile or as an adult?
Well, actually, Frederica, we're looking at both things, because under Utah law, he could be kept as a juvenile, in which case he's going to wind up essentially with a slap on the wrist for this horrible crime. There is a possibility, though, that they could try him as an adult, and they'll be looking at criminal homicide charges under Utah law. But it's tough sledding for him, because to be guilty of homicide, it's not just that you caused somebody's death. You have to have the intent to cause the death or act recklessly. And defense lawyers are going to say, hey, the kid just punched him once. Never in a million years was he trying to kill him. So this is not really a homicide. And that's what undoubtedly my friend Rachel Self will say is the best defense in the case. But we'll see.
Rachel, speak for yourself.
No, that's absolutely... Yes. That's absolutely what they're going to say, is that it was completely unintentional. But the danger here, and we still don't know what's going to happen in this case, is that he gets tried as an adult, because the Utah system is famous for treating youths very, very harshly. If it's decided to try him as an adult, he'll be held in a county facility. He will not be held in a juvenile detention facility. And he can definitely, it can happen, because any youth between 14 and 18 years old who commits a felony, the prosecution can choose to present to the court to try him as an adult, in which case he's looking at some pretty serious time. However, as the U.S. Supreme Court has recently decided in Miller v. Alabama, you're not going to be looking at life in prison for anything like this, because they do take his youth into account with sentencing.
Go ahead, Paul.
No, I was going to say, and in these cases, it's a one-punch murder case, really. What the courts look at, what prosecutors look at, is the person who threw the one punch. Was he a trained boxer? Did he have karate training or martial arts training? Something that would suggest that he knew that one punch could kill another human being. And if that's in the background of the 17-year-old, we don't know his name right now because he's a juvenile, this could be a homicide charge, but we'll have to await the facts to see how they develop.
Oh, so sad. Well, you have to wonder, with this incident and there are other reported incidents of violence kind of on the sidelines or even on the playing fields or venues, period, whether this will lead to, and even though we're talking about young people playing non-professional sports, whether this will lead to law enforcement, a greater, force of law enforcement on the sidelines. I mean, just to prevent, the kind of aggression that unfolds too often, on these playing fields. Well,
I mean, youth sports is all about teaching sportsmanship and teaching respect for others. And so the fact that this is starting to happen is just, I think that it's a tragic commentary on what's happening with the youth today. And I think parents should be getting a little stricter with their kids, myself. But that's me.
I wonder if anything. I wonder if anything has changed. I have a feeling this has been going on for years, but it's now with the 24-hour news cycle and with us covering these cases, we're just aware of it. I'm betting kids haven't changed that much, and parents really haven't changed that much either. This is bizarre behavior, and hopefully we won't see too much of it statistically around the United States.
Well, I don't remember anything of this sort when I was on any kind of playing field growing up, so I don't know what's going on these days. All right, Paul Callan, thanks so much. Rachel Self, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, she's a